My Life as I Remember It, Chapter 2, Part 5, Big House. Hazel Jeffress was a photographer and owned some professional cameras. He had a dark room located in what they called a smokehouse beside my grandmother Jeffress's house. The first time I saw an image appear on a piece of paper in what I thought was water was the most amazing thing I had ever seen. Hazel had a lady in Knoxville who could paint those black and white prints into color portraits. I can't remember him doing anything. Let me try that again. I can't remember him doing any other kind of job. I have often wondered if he signed those prints, and I'm sure many of those are hanging in houses, maybe Cracker Barrels all over the country. Hazel went door to door doing portraits, and Dad worked with him several times. In those days, a lot of people were superstitious. Hazel and Dad devised a routine to make sure they would sell the finished product, because they would go out and take them and then develop them and bring them back. When they returned to deliver the portraits, they would always get into a conversation with the customers before they revealed the portraits, and my dad told me this. The talk was positive, just like there was no doubt the people would love the photographs. The story would progress about weird things that happened to people in the photographs they could not deliver. They were even trying to come up with a way to destroy the photographs without burning them. The sun is coming out. You can probably see it brighten up. They were even trying to come up with a way to destroy I'm getting all goofed up, but I'm not going to change it because it's just basic information for family anyway. They were trying to come up with a way to destroy the photographs without burning them. Most of the return photos were burned, but due to some unusual things happening, they were trying to come up with another way to destroy unpurchased photographs. When it came time to unveil the photos, the people were running all over the house and neighborhood trying to come up with enough money to keep the photos from being destroyed by these crazy photographers. Dad said that black people were the most superstitious and they always purchased the photos. Guess Dad was an honest man, but had some con artist in him. I can imagine how realistic Dad and Hazel did the jive about burning the photographs. Dad and my mother's brothers were not ordinary people in those days. They and some of the other boys in the community would put on plays on the front porch at my grandmother's house. People came from all over the neighborhood to watch the skits. Dad would put pieces of corn in his mouth, and one of the other actors would act like a dentist with a hammer knocking Dad's teeth out. When the hammer hit, Dad would spit out a grain of white corn. I can imagine how the people in that community enjoyed those antics. They were a bunch of talented people. These skits were presented years before I was born, and I am only relating what others who witnessed it have told me. I included in this story just to give you some idea of my dad. It would be a treasure if he had decided to leave a history of his exploits. Years later, I met a piano player who said he was influenced more by Dad and those days watching the skits up on Black Oak than anything else. He said my dad was one of the most impressive men he ever met. This piano player looked like a gangster and could play that part perfectly. He would do this act to scare his friends' girlfriends. His name was Polly Hughes. I saw him do this gangster bit once, and if I hadn't have known Polly, I would have been convinced he was a gangster. My grandmother Jeffers had some apple trees in her front yard. When I would go over there and I'd pick up an apple, one of the female cousins would run me all over the yard saying, "Give me that apple, boy." She had me scared to death, and I hated to go to Black Oak because of her. She was a terror. In fact, I can't think of any good thoughts about Black Oak. I hated that place. But in one of the earlier ones, I told you about receiving closure on that spot of Jellicoe. In what they call the bottoms at Jellicoe were strip mines. I enjoyed seeing the equipment work in those strip pits. Water was a problem, and all of the pits became lakes. The city of Jellicoe made part of this strip pit into a park, and the lakes looked the same as they did when I was young, although the city has cleaned the surrounding area and it's now a beautiful city park. So if you ever go over there and see those lakes, I can remember when those lakes were dug.